Hi, everybody, and welcome back. And I'm going to check something this time because some of you, oops, something happened. Boy, it's just never ending with this, isn't it? Okay. Yeah, let's just make sure everything is good to go there. Yes, it is. All right. So, here's the deal. So many of you tried to warn me, and I appreciate that. That's the value of community that we were talking about that you didn't hear, and I was not able to pay attention to that. I guess I need to think about a producer, and now my thing is comments are going to flood with. I can help you with that. I can help you with that. Please don't. I will get through this, and at some point, yes, I will have a producer, but that's not right now. Okay, so it's. But nonetheless, it's we had us a little bit of a mishap, and I appreciate everybody who was truly trying to help and to make that happen with me and for me. So it was very wanted and appreciated. Let's continue to see if how we're doing here, and then we will dive into this because we'll just do it again because that's what live is all about, isn't it? You never know what's going to happen. Okay, hopefully you all can hear me, and hopefully we can make this happen. Yeah, there I am. I'm back on here somehow. So, all right, the video is going crazy, kids. All right, hopefully that will stop happening so much. All right, before we really get into this, I am John Nelson Bailey, the plugin CEO of JKL Works and pluginbusiness.net and .com. And we are going to talk about upsells and cross sells today. And upsells and cross sells are one of those things that you'll find as we go through this presentation are very hard to visualize what they are and how they work and how necessary they are until you add a tool called a value ladder. And so those of you who don't know what a value ladder is, we're gonna walk through some good examples of that. If you do know what it is, then look at this as a refresher course. And if you're not using one, you need to consider using one because it makes an absolute world of difference. Okay. So let's talk about upsells and cross sells because that is what we're going to do today. So what is an upsell? What is a cross sell? We're going to talk about those. They are different, but they both have a place. And then we're going to talk about at the end the value of adding a value ladder. Okay, and what that really does. This is not a tool you will show your customers ever. It's a tool you will keep for yourself, and it will always be something in the back of your mind as a device, as a helper for you to understand what you can and cannot offer, and you will not stumble in a sales presentation ever again if you have that in your pocket and you have that, not literally, but so you have that in the back of your mind to know where you stand and what you do. So what is an upsell? Upsell is it's something that adds it commands a higher price and many times has a higher cost, but also brings a lot more value in the chain of what you offer. It's not the primary thing you offer. It's something that's up the chain. And so it is something that you can, as you're working through with a client and you see they need some more, you can offer more. And you can keep them doing business with you. Okay. It's at the top as we're talking about. And the trick though with it is to add as much value as you can, but keep your costs lower, but you can still increase your prices. The big benefit of an upsell is to be able to charge lots more money. But along with that, wherever possible, you have to be able to keep costs in line such that you're making more money as you increase this while you're adding more value for your client. Sort of like the diagram here on the right sort of shows as you work your way up. I mean, it's just a graphic, but it looks a lot like the value ladder, working your way up the stairs, working your way towards those higher profits and those higher margins and those higher values for your customers and your clients, and helping them to do the same. And then they can in turn do that for their customers and work their way up and have several different things to offer that'll meet a particular customer where they are. We've talked about downsells in the past. That's the opposite. That's the escape valve to somehow keep that business going if they can't afford it. But the upsell is the opposite problem. Not only do they need what the core thing that you're offering, but they need some more stuff. There's some more value here. There's some more things that you can help them provide that only you can do, that only your company can bring. And so that's where an upsell is a big deal. Now let's talk about a cross sell. And I guess it's just as good. You didn't hear the audio because I, went in circles way too much on this. But what a cross sell, what is a cross sell, right? So it is a similar product or service to one that you already offer, but there is something different about it. And there's a particular reason why you would have it. Okay. It's the same, but has a little bit of a difference or has some sort of difference, but it's similar enough. What is that difference? Well, it's probably small. The examples I gave would be like if you go into a restaurant, into a hamburger place, and you want to get a regular hamburger, maybe it's Burger King or something, and they have those Impossible Whoppers. So you can get a regular hamburger with meat, but maybe you're vegan, or maybe you, for some medical reason, can't have meat, or can't have, for any number of other reasons. They have the Impossible Whopper that's made out of everything else that's not meat. And so it's an alternative that's an option for you. And so then it's a variant on the same thing. It's the same thing, just has this important variant to it that will meet a specific group of people where they are. And that's important to have. I mean, it should be a very similar apple to apple product, Coke and Coke Zero. We're not going to do Coke and Diet Coke because, man, that's way too different. That's a nasty. But it's Coke and Coke Zero are designed to be similar enough, but there is zero sugar. There's other stuff, but there's zero sugar in the Coke. So these are variants. These are of a given product, and they have their place as a cross sell. Maybe you offer them to a specific prospect or a specific client that needs that instead of the other for any number of reasons. So it's great to have a cross sell in this particular situation. So when should you offer it? Well, it's good to know this in advance. Put this together in advance. So before you even walk in, using the tool I'll show you in just a minute, the value ladder. But if you know and you detect right away that you have a cross sell, you have a secondary option that you can go to that's very similar. There is one I talked about without the audio was there are mixed drink cocktails with alcohol, right? There's a whole cottage industry and competitions and everything else to making what they call mocktails, which are and the purest form of it was to try to get as close as you could to the taste of the regular alcoholic drink without the alcohol. No alcohol at all, or hardly any. Really, no alcohol, honestly, is where it should go. And so you try to duplicate that taste as close as you can using non-alcoholic ingredients. There's competitions, there's all kind of stuff, like I said, for that. So but there are plenty of people who either they're underage, or they have sensitivities to alcohol, or they have addiction in their family and they choose not to drink, or whatever, but they still enjoy the taste of those drinks. So there's plenty of reason to have that option. As a kid, so we all thought we were big time drinking with the grown-ups. You could order a Roy Rogers or a Shirley Temple, right? It's a Coke Roy Rogers is a Coke with a cherry in it. A Shirley Temple is a Sprite that I think has a cherry in it. Same, just so you call it, and that's not a cross sell. That's a something else, but that's the basis of a mocktail. And so those are some examples of what a cross sell can do for you. But you need to have this planned in advance. You need to know that this is an option you have. So, and it doesn't get brought out unless you detect it's needed. And then you can offer it right away to say, we have this over here that I think would suit you better and meet more of your needs that you told me you have for whatever reason. So that's the power of a cross sell. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about the value ladder, because this is the visual. This is going to, I hope, put this all together for you. If you're watching all of this without audio, it's pretty interesting. But now we get to have it hopefully with audio, and we get to talk about the different applications of the value ladder, but it is all visual. You will see upsells, you'll see downsells. You won't necessarily see a cross sell, but you can certainly map them into your value ladder. So what is it? It's a tool that allows you to visualize your product catalog and to visualize the amount of value that it provides versus the price you charge and the cost that it takes to provide it. As you work your way up, the price increases that you sell it for. The cost probably increases, although you try to keep that in check as best you can. It's not represented. But the value also increases. And so you build your ladder based on that concept. Okay. Who is it for? It's just for you. Your customers don't need to see this unless you're building one for them and teaching them how to do it. For those of you that do coaching or marketing or consulting or whatever. If you're teaching somebody how to do it, great. Show them the value ladder. But if not, your prospects have no business seeing your value ladder. They will experience it in other ways. It will come out in your proposals where you offer different versions. It will come out in your conversation. But you don't need to reference it. It is a tool for you. It's a, some people call those mnemonic devices where they can put things together to help them remember stuff. This is kind of the same idea. This is to help you remember what you have. And if you take it to heart, you will never be stuck and frustrated and flustered in a presentation, because you will know exactly what you have, because you can visualize your value ladder in your head and you know it's there. So before I show you some, let's talk about how to make one. Okay. So how do you make a value ladder? It is surprisingly hard in digital spaces. The concept is not hard at all. You'll see it in just a minute. It's not that hard. It's also called a step diagram. But actually finding a software that creates them is harder than I thought it would be. I thought PowerPoint used to have those, and there are templates you can buy that do. Okay. But base PowerPoint does not. Base Excel really does not very well anyway. Places like Canva do, and that's where I went to create mine. And so they do have some value ladders, including a very interesting one that those of you who stuck through the whole thing without audio saw. But we'll get into it in just a little bit. It's just kind of an interesting take on the value ladder. It's, some would argue, maybe one of the first value ladders out there. But you get to see how that it's a little heady, but you might get to see how that works. But value ladders can also be as simple as a list. Okay. And that's the place you start. Before you do any of this, you create a list. You start at either at the top or the bottom, listing your lowest level thing, be that a free estimate or a consultation or a giveaway, something or other, or whatever, lead magnet. That can be your lowest level thing, all the way up into and including the products that you offer, and then the upsells that you provide. And so once you make that list, it makes the diagramming, unless you're just that good an artist, it makes the diagramming easier. But you should have that list in place of which level things come at which level. And you don't have to have the numbers. You don't have to have that, but just the general perception. Again, this is to help you. And so you don't need to do it like a line graph where it goes, way up and it actually has points plotted and that sort of thing. That's not really what this is about, but this is about visualization. And if you have that list in place, it makes that a whole lot easier. So let's look at some, shall we? Let's look at starting by looking at ours, as you saw. So JKL works. We have, this is the components of a pretty good value ladder. Okay. With one except, not that it's bad, but it's different in that we start in a different place. So in every value ladder, You always want to have a starting point you want to get your customer to. It is not necessarily the bottom. For a lot of value ladders, it is. Okay, that's the point of entry, but not necessarily for everybody. Okay, including us. So we usually try, our process is this. We try to get people to, we want to do a basic assessment of their business. We try 3 or 4 different strategies. We get some basic financial information from you. And in our profit acceleration software, that's proprietary, it shows some amazing results by doing some serious calculations with those numbers. Calculation, that's a new word. I like it. Calculations with those numbers. And so, and then it comes back with all sorts of different, and so we'll pick 3 or 4 strategies that might work out of the 12 to 15, depending on which type of blueprint we do on your business. So a cross sell is right here, in that we offer a success blueprint for a business with a physical location. Whether or not you see customers, doesn't matter. If you have a location that you work out of, that you serve a local area, then that's a success blueprint. Ask a few different questions, does things a little differently. Then the digital success blueprint is the cross sell. And the cross sell for that, the digital success blueprint, is for online businesses. So not represented here necessarily, but it would be like right in here. Okay, as to which one of those we lead with depends on the business. Then from there, we offer to help to help walk these strategies out. It takes a few weeks each, but it's totally worth doing. And so that then becomes what we call the ProfitWorks implementation. So that is the core of what we do, is this coaching relationship, step by step, week by week, not overwhelming you, adding in a small list of tasks to do every week, working toward the goals that we think together can raise your revenue, and more importantly, raise your profits. So that's what we want everybody to start with, is this, because then from there we can determine a lot of things. We can determine if they need more, like a client that I was showing recently. This client actually really needs the top tier that I'll talk about in just a second. But it is, everything's kind of out there working. Let's double check some of these things. Yes. Okay. So I did leave the mute on just in case we had another problem. So let me turn that back off so it doesn't bother everybody here. Okay. So let's flip it on back over. All right. So we are, this is where we start. It's right here in the middle at the screen. So then we go to the ProfitWorks. That's a step-by-step coaching implementation that we do. Now, we'll talk about the downsells in just a minute, or some of the entry points there. They're alternate entry points as well, just to make this really confusing. But our next upsell, since we're talking about upsells, and we've already talked about the cross-sell, the one cross-sell we offer for the most part, with one exception, is we come up here to the next level up, is our ProfitWorks Professional. That adds in foundational marketing pieces. Not every business needs those. Maybe they're doing them already, but we would then provide them powered by our deal called the System. And that is, or SystemWorks, that is Go High Level. So it powers a lot of this at the next level for our client, in addition to the coaching. Still offering the coaching, still working with them, but doing these extra pieces to increase that potential for that revenue. And a lot of times, particularly, it reflects some of the strategies that we talk about in the blueprint. Like, we can talk about referrals, we can talk about customer reactivation, we can talk about reputation management reviews. And so this then puts that into action for them if they don't want to do it themselves. Okay, but that is an upsell. Next one is the ultimate upsell with this other client we've determined or prospect is going to be at. And that is everything. That is that's the Success Academy, which we haven't talked about, which is online training. That's the coaching. That is the marketing fundamentals. And it is a prospecting system on social media that adds to it. That is the top tier of what we do. Notice what is not in here: websites, ads, that sort of thing. Do we have access to those? Yes. Could we do them if we had to? Yes. But I would rather bring in somebody who is an expert at those and very good at it when we get to these certain points that we need them, and that's trustworthy to do business, that won't flake out or won't take advantage of a situation if they're brought in to another situation. So I have my list of vetted people that I trust to do this, and so that is at the top tier when it comes down to that. So I'm my company is doing this with the prospecting and with the other, but we know our limitations. And if the customer needs more than that, we bring in more than that and we work it out. So it's knowing your limitations in a value ladder as much as anything. I know you can do everything to everybody all the time, but I'm here to tell you, you're going to reach a point where you can't. And you don't want to reach that point unprepared. You don't want to reach that point trying to ending up way over promising everything and pissing off your client at the time. And that's how marketers get bad names. That's how other businesses get bad names, is they overpromise and way underdeliver because they're completely out of their element. So use the value ladder to learn your limits and to establish your limits and to know what you're willing to do and what you need to outsource if you want to offer it at all. And we've talked about that with alliances and joint ventures and some additional products. I mean, bring in the additional products. Just, there's another art to managing them. But if you're going to include them, you need to master that art. So back to the value ladder. Now let's go down. So we do have one downsell. We've talked about downsells before in other videos. And so the downsell is, for us, we call it ProfitWorks Jumpstart. It's still the coaching. It's still that, trying to reach those pieces, but it's a lot smaller. It's unlimited sessions, but they're only 15 minutes as opposed to an hour. They're booked whenever you're ready. Whenever you go through, there's a set of procedures that we work through with you, and you don't get to move to the next one until you've mastered the current one. And so it's a lot lower key, but it may be where somebody is. But it's not the thing we lead with. It's the thing we downsell to. Okay, if there's an issue. We also have the Success Academy, which does come with these higher tiers, and it's DIY training. You can do it at your own pace. It's really well done. You get workbooks, you get audio files that you can turn into MP3s and take with you. You can listen to them. There's people have found some success in making a playlist of stuff like this, and that's all they listen to. They don't listen to music. They don't listen to podcasts. They don't listen to other stuff. This is what they listen to, is this all the time, at least for a season anyway. And so that's important. There's some cool things you can do there. And then we get to the very bottom, which for a lot of people, and you'll see in a minute, is an entry point. This is an entry. These are entry points for us. These are free. They are either a strategy session, which we did recently, with a client that will lead to much more. That's okay. We have it for that reason. Maybe somebody's not ready to jump in the blueprint just yet. They need a little time to talk about what they have in mind. And so that's what we have the strategy session for. We also have webinars that are on a periodic basis that introduce people to what we do, with some topics like everything you know about marketing is wrong. And we show you why. Stuff like that. It's more than just clickbait attention getting stuff. It is that to some degree, but it's a chance for us to introduce you to our world and see if this is something that would be for you. Our chiropractor used to have a dinner twice a month. He would do at the local Macaroni Grill. And it's free for anybody attending, but it was clearly a very nice, very well done sales pitch. Where he brings you in, you have a nice little dinner. The costs are kept low because there's only certain things you can choose from. There's like 3 or 4 of them. And then you have a little, you get to do that because you came and ate the food. You have to hear the spiel. So, and the spiel it's a very, very compelling story. And he has a process that he takes you through. if you want to do an assessment and start your journey to the world of chiropractic. I did that for a long time, very successful. So those webinar pieces do work. Those live sessions work. Colleague who does what I do just had one of a live session where they got 4 people to start the journey. It was roughly half the number of people that attended. It was a 50% close rate. Pretty stellar, if you ask me. So this stuff does work, and so this is a point of entry for us. But then you would leapfrog up here to the green section. Because again, we want you doing the blueprint, and we want to map that course, and it's hard to know where to go without that. Not only for us, but for you too. So that's how we do our value ladder. It's a little different than some, but if this wasn't laid out, it would make me crazy trying to figure it out and trying to know what's there. Even though I don't come back and look at this often, it is now in my head because I've seen it visually. Okay. So what would that look like for other businesses, not just JKO Works? Let's go the correct direction, and let's look at an HVAC company. I will tell you that this is based off a real conversation with a real company, but the name has been changed to protect the ones that are doing very well that didn't need our services. However, the name I changed it to is actually a company that we used to own. We were a silent partner in working for a guy who is an HVAC technician and is very good at what he does. But we were support and back office and financing for him. So Green Space Mechanical was the actual name of that company. So I'm very familiar with the AC world, a lot more than most. We were a Daikin distributor, not a dealer, a distributor who gets to sell to the dealers. I don't know how we got that, but we did at the time. And I'm not sure if it's still active or not. It might be. And on top of all that, the person over that very large plant, it's the largest tilt wall concrete facility in the world, just outside of Houston, Texas. The person who is the state representative over that is a very good friend of mine. So very connected to the HVAC world, a lot more than it sort of fell into place a lot more than I thought. So, but this was what a successful value ladder and success, frankly, would look like for an HVAC company. Why? Why is this different than anybody else? Well, because of a couple of these things up here. So we'll get to those in just a second. But everything starts with the initial estimate, the initial call. Maybe it's a service call. Maybe you charge for it. Maybe you don't. Maybe you charge and refund it or apply it to any work that gets done, which is very common in the AC world and a lot of other worlds too. And that's okay. But this is where it all happens. This is where you walk in and as the technician, and you have to figure out what you're dealing with. Is this a quick repair? Is this I really need to have this problem solved and I don't have the equipment. My system doesn't do that presently, but I don't need a new one. Or all the way up to, I do need a new system. This thing is totally broken. We need to redo this. So one never knows what they're dealing with when those calls. So you have to figure that out. But the initial call here, this is in fact the point of entry for this value ladder down here, because it rarely happens any other way. Okay, then you go to service, and this we're talking about mostly basic service, repairing something that's wrong in a system. Can cost anywhere from $30, $40, $50 up to several hundred, or even a couple thousand, but still not as expensive as and so most of those repairs are down in the hundreds of dollars, probably. Still not as expensive, far from as expensive as a new unit. So in that particular case, then it's at a set point. So this is most commonly what gets worked on, is you're there to repair whatever's there. Okay. Then let's take it to a different level. This company I spoke to, they add something called, or they offer something called an ionizer. And what that is, that's an air purifying system. Now they've had something like those on AC systems for years. They've had, it's ultraviolet light. And I've had AC systems that had that. They're more expensive. They take a long time to put in. And now what's happening is some of the parts are breaking on them and they can't get those parts replaced. So that UV system ends up being kind of useless until it can be repaired. And sometimes they got to go deep into there because it's kind of baked into the system, and so it's baked into the core of the AC unit, so it's a little harder to come by and to repair. And so this ionizer is not that at all. It's got a reasonable price point, under $1,000 in his case, probably less than that. I'm sure less than that to purchase. It installs in 15 minutes. And it does as good or better a job than the UV light stuff does, and it's just generally safer. It doesn't mess with things sometimes like some of the ultraviolet light can do. So mess with other things in your house. So the ionizer just runs. It's quiet. I mean, and is easily installed in your system. So it will be a game changer for HVAC companies because they can do this. They can install this year round. They can help people year-round instead of just seasonal by adding these pieces. Along with that, they can make it in conjunction with what's above there, with the duct cleaning, duct services. That's what this company has. They have brought on a specific business unit that's all they do is duct cleaning. Maybe in yours or your client's case, it's partnering with somebody who does the duct cleaning. And so you send each other through alliances and joint ventures and partnerships. Yeah. So you then send them work, and they send you work for AC repair work, and you're helping each other and you're connecting with each other, and that's cool. But duct cleaning and the ionizers and the just general role that an HVAC system can play in that is a way forward for HVAC companies and what they can do to broaden their potential. But until more recently, this wasn't necessarily here, or it wasn't necessarily thought of. These services have been around, but they're not always put together. And so the smart AC companies are finding ways to do that and to partner those up because it's a very logical fit. When standard AC break fix stuff is not necessary, then you can come in and you can bring this. Not really a cross sell. It's this duct cleaning is not inexpensive. But it is opportunities for doing some, as is insulation. Maybe you have a partner that can repair some, add in some insulation, or they can fix some of the problems that are associated with it, and that helps an AC out too, especially in hot climates, right? Or keeps the heat in the winter. Can do the same thing. And then finally, and also maybe gas or propane technicians, which are usually plumbers, if they're not dedicated propane people, can go right along with working with an HVAC company as well. So finally, you get up to the top here. That is the quintessential new AC install, and this is the top of the heap. These are all upsells from this. Okay, they're all upsells from the repairs. So you get to see the upsell in action. Not necessarily the cross sell unless you, I guess, go to a different unit of some sort. Maybe you do a mini split versus a regular whole house unit. But so the cross sells are a little bit harder here. Maybe there's another technology. Maybe you bring in the UV because for some reason it makes more sense than the ionizer does. Or they get the parts situation straightened out and the ionizers start to become hard to come by. So those may be opportunities for cross sells, but most of this in this world is an upsell. Okay. So with me so far there? All right. So then let's go to, I keep going the wrong way. Let's go to a digital marketing agency, right? As many of you are. So we start with the very low threat, low cost stuff down, marketing fundamental stuff down here, don't we? That's the reputation management. That's the online presence, or Google My Business, or Google Business Profile. I mean, that is that is all those things. Referrals, even. They're very low points of entry down here, and that's what most people lead with from a yes. This is a great way to do this. This is a great thing to sell, a great foot in the door. Some call it the Baby Yoda strategy. because it's simple, because it's easy to understand. It's easy to follow. It's not complicated. Okay, then you go up next to, say, content marketing. They say yes, and so then you start working your way up and adding services, right? And I realize I may have gotten a couple of these wrong at the top, but we'll deal with that when we get there. So content marketing, that is social media posting, that is blogging, that's videos even. It can get expensive, but in general, this is a pretty good barrier of entry place to start on the next level up if you're looking to add value for somebody. Okay. Then you go to the SEO and the prospecting, who are similarly priced for the most part. And the prospecting is social media and email prospecting. It's not ads. It's targeting people, specific groups of people, and reaching out to them and with an offer and working that through. That is like SEO. That's generally predictable. It has a set price. It's easier to manage in that respect. And so it's a great middle of the road, but not everybody needs prospecting. Maybe they're doing it on their own. They have their own sales department. They don't need you, or they don't need you directly like that to do the social media that way. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Just depends on the business. Not everybody, sorry guys, but not everybody needs SEO. It's hard to sell. It can be bundled by itself. It can be bundled with other things, and it's valuable. But it's harder to sell. It's harder to work with. It's harder to explain what it is and why you need it. So those of you who really sell it know what I'm talking about, but many of those who've been selling it for a long time know how to sell it well. So it does have its place. So I don't want to insist otherwise. All right, then you get up here, and you could swap these around, frankly, depending on the size of the website or the funnel. It may come down as the upsell, and then ads become the more expensive upsell, or vice versa. If it's a big website build out, then that's a higher price thing, and may have higher value. Now you say ads are probably more valuable, and you might be right, but not if they get really expensive. Maybe if you're doing an e-learning thing, your website is what you got, or it's an online business that you want people coming to for whatever reason, or an online thing, then that's what you're selling. That's what you want people coming to. It's got to be there. It's got to be running and functional. And ads, you could take your leave doing ads as long as this up here is running and functional. So there's cases for both, for swapping these where they are, and which one's the top tier, which one's not the top tier. But this is how a value ladder for a typical marketing agency might look, something like this. So your mileage will certainly vary. So set it up how you want. But I think you see out of the three of these, there's some real easy ways to do this, right? To where it all looks the same. You get the idea. It's visual, and you can refer to it, and you can refer to it in your mind's eye very quickly once it's in place as to where everything sits, what your client actually needs, and how to take them to that level. And you can go from there. Notice there's no pricing on any of these. That's not really the point. It's in the back of your head. It should be a part of each one of them, but not for this. This is a memory tool. This is a processing tool. This is something for you. Okay. Now let's look at a really creative one So I mentioned one of to create these is harder to find than you might imagine, but Canva, as is the case, always has something going on that will help. And in the middle of their design templates they came across what could be the original value ladder. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And if you want to look that up, it might be an interesting undercurrent to what it is that we do as sales and marketing people. This obviously doesn't apply to all of us, but it's interesting background. It's deep background. This is heady college stuff, okay? As one who has a master's degree that I don't use for anything other than to say I have it, I guess. But this we would look at stuff like this. So this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You're welcome to Google it or Wikipedia it or whatever and see what it really is. I didn't do great job of delving into it. I was more focused on showing the model than I am on the content of the model necessarily. So you start here at the bottom with the most basic need of humans, and that's physiological. That is food. That is water. That is shelter. Clothing, perhaps, unless you want to run around naked when it's 30 degrees and snowing. So you need those sorts of things, and those are physiological needs that have to be met. Okay, that goes hand in hand, very similar with safety. The next one up. We need to be safe. We need to not be fearful all the time. We need to find our places that are our safe places to be. There's a lot about that, of course, but that's the second in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And if you're looking at this in terms of importance, this is probably a much higher up in that category. But where it is, it's very attainable to attain safety versus some of the other things that are higher up in the chain. Okay, like it or not. So the next one is love. We all need love in some form or another. And I'm talking about romantic love. Yes, you need that. But we also just need, love from family, love from friends, just acceptance and, and being a part of that no matter what. That you're loved and you're wanted. Everybody wants that. Orphan kids struggle with that so much. And we as adults, particularly the ones who don't want to admit it, struggle with it too. Everybody needs some form of love, whether or not they want to receive it at the time or not. But we all just as humans process better when love is a part of what we do. That's not touchy-feely. That is reality. Okay. Another need that is next up on the level is esteem. Okay. So esteem is to be well thought of, right? So you want to feel like you're important. You want to be held in higher regard for something or another. You want to be useful. You want to be helpful. You want people to recognize that in you. That's what you're trying to do. That's esteem. And it's important too. I mean, if you don't feel like you're useful, if you don't feel like you're wanted, if you don't feel like you're, anything you do matters, then that can cause a whole host of problems. But that is esteem. Okay. Then we go up to cognition. We need to work our brain. We need to keep our brain sharp. This is why athletes who've had a lot of concussions try to do things like crossword puzzles or things that really focus Sudoku. People, that forces them to work their mind. This is oftentimes why people, instead of retiring, keep working, not because they have to, it's because they want to. If they stop, then the realization is their brain will stop too, and they know this. And statistics have proven this out. If you stop, you go downhill very quickly. Not medically, you just from a mental standpoint, because you're not keeping yourself sharp, because you're not forcing yourself to remain active. That's a reason now a lot of people work and when they're older and they're ready to retire, because they need to feel useful. People that are injured and have recovered or have lost limbs or had catastrophic, they want to be useful and they want to use their brain. So these two things are very connected to each other. And so they know using their brain will help keep everything going for them. Then the concept of actualization at the top is very heady, and I'm not going to do it any justice. It's kind of self-awareness. It's self, being aware of your reality, being aware of everything that you need that. And what that involves. And I'm probably not doing it justice. Feel free to look up Maslow's hierarchy of needs and incorporate it into anything you do if it's appropriate. But it's at the very least, a bit of a character study into humans and why we do many of the things that we do and why we request many of the things that we do. And this goes a little bit towards branding. Some branding takes this into account when they start looking at the true needs that people have and where this fits. This, I promise, this is referenced at times. So that's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, arguably one of the first value ladders, guys. That's the whole reason it's here. I just thought it was kind of interesting. But it is a value ladder nonetheless. There are lots of upsells. There is no cross-sell that I'm aware of in this, but there's plenty of upsells, and you get to see how the value ladder works and our hierarchy works and our mental visualization. So fascinating study and look into sometime. Just don't go read the research papers on this stuff. It will make your head hurt. That takes a very special individual to read those all day, every day. Not that the work isn't well done, not that the work isn't well placed, but it's a lot of statistics and research, and and the conclusions that come from that. And so there are very specific places you want to look, but scholarly journals will make your head hurt after a while. So even though they're chock full of information. All right. So back to what we do. This is a bit of a sales pitch because that's generally a look at upsells and cross sells. There's only and value ladders. There's only so much you can really talk about these. I hope these examples have been helpful for you. I hope you go and make your own. If you want to share it where you put the comments, in some of these, like our Facebook group, share your value ladder. Why not? Show us what you got. Show us what you put together. And let's not tear it down, but you have your reasons for putting it that way. You're not sharing prices, so you're not violating anything. It's kind of this is truly what I offer, and it helps you to narrow down and focus what you offer. So speaking of what we offer, we do offer the success blueprint for businesses of any reasonable size that are making a decent profit. We can show you how much more you can make if we bring in things that some of you may already be aware of, or some things you haven't thought about yet. But we're going to ask you some questions about them in the success blueprint, and we're going to do some pretty serious calculations, albeit conservative ones. We're not going to get, big pie in the sky numbers, with promises we can't deliver. So we'll start with 5 or 10% increases, but then we will show you what that looks like, and you will be blown away. That's why we can find any business at least $50,000 of revenue in 50 minutes, because we start with that procedure in the blueprints. And then we can help you with all those things. We can also help your clients. We've got a model in place if you think your clients would need this, then let's talk about what that would look like. And we will work through you with them. So you will be aware, you will not be cut out, you will not be taken over. We work for you. But this is a particular set of skills that we bring that not everybody else is offering. And so we know it will be valuable for your business or any business that you think is important. It's an opportunity then for you to have an upsell. Hey, see how that works? As an upsell to bring this in and let us work with them through you, and you be a part of it while you're working on, say, the marketing side of things or whatever it is that you offer. So that's the deal. That's how we do what we do. If you want more information, if you want to dive into the blueprint, book a time with us. Blueprint.jklworks.com. Blueprint.jklworks.com is that website. Or if you just want more information, jklworks.com, our website is there, and you can scroll all the way to the bottom and book a strategy session with us if you don't know what you want, and we'll make it happen for you. All right, folks, that's it. Thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I will get better at the technical stuff. Facebook has changed the game on us all. But that doesn't have anything to do with the fact that we didn't have any audio. That has very much to do with a tiny little button right here on the microphone. So when you're trying to get all these details just right, sometimes you miss the little ones, don't you? But thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or just comment wherever it is that you watch this, we'll clean up the old versions that don't have the audio and bring in the new ones. You folks on YouTube and Rumble won't know any different, because there'll only be one you see. So just know that it happened and it was embarrassing, but it's live and we move on. It's live video. It's a live stream, and those things can happen. So I appreciate everybody who tried very hard to reach out to me during. There were a handful of you, and I really do appreciate it. It lets me know you're watching. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful week, and we will talk to you in the next video.